Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Heather Deniston, and this is the Junk You Should Know Show. And we are at a funny time today, aren't we, Valerie? I got you're up early anyway, but I got up extra early because you were on the East Coast and you were at a conference where you are speaking. And Valerie, funny thing, do you know what I do every time before we go live on a show?
I think you do some jumping jacks or something.
I do some jumping jacks, but I also practice pronouncing the last name of the guest.
Ah, yes, well.
I forgot to do, and yours terrifies me. So I'm going to try it, and then you're going to correct me, okay? Because you and I have known each other for a long time, but I've never actually asked you how you pronounce your last name, so I've always said it Olineinik. Olineinik?
That's very good. That's very good. Olineinik, yeah, that's very good.
Olineinik. Oh, that's even more straightforward than I'm trying to make it.
Yeah, easy. That was your first challenge, and look at that. You already.
Yeah, there we go. So everybody who's joining, please just put in the comments. I want you to put oh, Valerie, what should we do? We're talking about gamification. So what would be a fun thing to put in the comments?
Well, they can tell us what their favorite game is.
There we go.
Just tell us what their favorite game is.
Yes.
What kind they like.
I love that. So put your favorite game down below. And we are going to be talking about gamification of workouts and wellness today. And you want to stick around because there is some very cool science we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. We are going to get into some very, very good concepts that are going to help you make your not only workouts, but other wellness practices much more consistent. So thank you for joining, Valerie. I really appreciate you being here.
I'm excited. I feel like the old radio thing. It's like long time listener, first time caller. So I get to go from being a fan to being on the show. It's awesome.
Oh, well, I love that. And I'm a fan too. You helped me a lot. Last year, I spoke at a conference that was on wellness for corporations, and you helped me so much with your gamification background and all. You were so willing to give of your knowledge, and I can't wait for you to share that with our viewers today. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to bring up, we've got a bit of an agenda to get through. I don't want to miss out on stuff. And so, Valerie, first what I want to know, before we get into what is gamification, but I'm going to put that up there so they know it's coming. Tell me a little bit about what brings you into the whole gamification realm. Let's talk about how you got there first, and then we're going to talk about what exactly is gamification. So go ahead and share with us.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy journey. I started out actually in the performing arts, so I had a completely different background, but I also had a very geeky side, and I started working in corporate training. So I was teaching people how to use computers and things like that. And I noticed over time, because I've been doing it now for a couple of decades, most of it's boring. Frankly, most of it's really boring. People don't want to go to training. They feel like they're being punished. People say, oh, I have to go to training. Like it's this horrible thing. And I was just like, we can do better than this. We can do better than this. There's got to be some things out there we can do. And so I started exploring. And so I had always loved games since I was little board games, and worked my way up to video games and everything. And I started to look into the research, and I realized that games, they've been around for thousands of years. People like playing them.
Yeah.
You don't usually have to twist people's arm too hard. Now, not everybody likes the same kind of games, which is why I asked what kind of games people like, because I happen to remember we talked about you're not a big fan.
No, you taught me something, because I said I don't like games, blanket statement, and talked through it, and it's like I actually do. But very particular, like I like question asking games, like where you sit down and you just like ask questions of each other and different things. And I like physical games, like where you get out and you like, I love gamifying my workout. I've done that for so long. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, is just kind of share the science behind it. But you're right. People like different kinds of games. Most people like some kind of game.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, what can we do? How can we leverage that? How can we take pieces of that? And that's really what gets into what gamification is. So that it really isn't about a game per se. It's about studying the research behind game design and taking different elements of game and using them in a different way. So using them in non-game contexts. So originally I was working in learning. You can use it in all sorts of things, though, like exercise.
Yeah, exactly. And so I want to just share what you go and speak to businesses and corporations in different venues about how to take this boring content that they want their employees to know and how to make it much more interesting and trigger and light up that sensation in their body that they get when they play games, which is motivating and challenging and fun, and apply that to this information that they need to digest as either new employees or up leveling their training or whatever. Do I have that right? That's kind of
dead on. Okay. It absolutely is. It's just, and I think the mistake that some of them make, though, is they just stop at the fun piece, and that is a big piece of it. Is that's kind of like the key that opens the door. Like if you can present something in a way that's engaging and fun for people, they're more receptive to it. They spend more time with it, and as we know, if you spend more time on something, you're going to get better at it.
Yeah.
So really, when I go out and speak to people, I love when people say, "Oh, that was so much fun. I had a great time." But my follow-up question is always, "But did you get something useful? Did you find that piece of information? Did you get that idea of how you can apply it to get good results?" Because it's what it's really about. It's about getting them to the results that they want. Whether it's the business, the person, hopefully you get those in alignment, and that sometimes is the tricky part.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that is a tricky balance. It's a big job for you, but I know you do it well. And so that leads us right into some of the gamification stuff that we want to talk about. So you mentioned fun. Tell me a little bit about there are 4 types of fun, which I did not know in our pre-chat, and you totally educated me on that. And so share with the audience, because they may not know either, what are the 4 types of fun and how do they kind of play into the whole concept of gamification, if you will?
Sure. So what this comes out of is some research from a game designer and researcher named Nicole Lazzaro. She's been in the game industry for quite a while now. Very successful. And she started studying why people played games. So, very, very early on, she was one of the people out there really digging into it. And she came up from her research and found 4 categories that she calls it. And so I think some of the problem with gamification is people get kind of hung up on the words and the definitions. And so people hear fun and they just think, oh, frivolous, silly, it's not important or whatever. But what she found was that the first type is hard fun. People like to be challenged. People really, we enjoy that feeling of accomplishing things and mastering things. No one likes to feel unsure about doing something, and so getting them on that pathway from beginner to sort of intermediate and then an expert is very fun for people. People think that's fun. But it's not how we maybe traditionally think about the word. So that would be the first one. The second one she calls easy fun. Now this one would be more of the, maybe if you're a casual, you play a casual game or something, it's more focused on maybe the creativity. It's a little more relaxed maybe, but it opens up some curiosity. People like to explore and experiment a little bit. So you can think about that as sort of the easy, what we'll call easy fun. And then the next one is serious fun, which sounds so ominous. But really what that has to do with is people find it fun when they can take things and apply them in the real world, that there's some purpose behind the play. We're not just playing for the sake of playing. So sometimes we are, but other times we might be really digging in to accomplish something that then is meaningful. So you can think about, somebody who plays chess, okay, pretty cerebral game. But people who play it would say that they're enjoying themselves, that they're having fun, they're motivated to do it. But it's not, again, not that sort of ha-ha fun that we might sort of limit our thinking about.
Yeah.
So I think that one's kind of the one that kind of people go, ooh, I really never thought about that.
That connection,
But then the last one that is one of yours, I know, is social fun. And a lot of people, that's what it is. People like to play games because they get to spend time with their friends. They get to learn about other people. They get to explore, other people's ideas and things like that. So she calls that social fun. And that is a huge motivator. And, like in exercise, people often hear like, get an exercise buddy.
Yeah.
That's that's really connected to that is, that social piece. But again, that doesn't mean everybody. For example, I like to work out alone. I'm kind of in my head. I'm like, not that I don't like people, but when I'm doing that, that's my time. Other people, they like to have that buddy. And that goes with all these aspects of fun. Sometimes we like one better than another. It doesn't mean we're always in one category. We explore all of them. But you experiment and you see what works for you. So
I think that's true. And it makes me think of, when group classes and boot camps and Orange Theory and all of those things kind of have come up in popularity. It has a lot to do with the fact that there's a gamification baseline to it. And so I think that's important for viewers to be aware of, as well as some of the things that you're already participating in are gamified. And so I think that's cool to acknowledge that. Now, one of the aha moments I had with you when we were talking about this was the whole concept of neurotransmitters and how those relate to the different types of fun, and then that plays into motivation. Can you share a little bit about those connections?
Yeah, it's fascinating once you start digging. For me, this is one of my types of fun. It's like that, digging into things and exploring. So what they're finding is that there's tons of different neurotransmitters. I don't pretend to be a neuroscientist, but at a basic level, I think most of us kind of know a little bit of this. So I'm going to explain the four. They spell out the word dose. So they're easy to remember, DOSE. That's how I remember them anyway.
That's good.
You can get your daily dose of happiness by thinking about these. The first one you probably have heard of, which is dopamine. Mm-hmm. Okay. And dopamine, unfortunately, is misunderstood a little bit. People associate it with being about getting rewards. They think, oh, reward, dopamine, it went off. That's not actually how it works. What happens is the dopamine is triggered by the anticipation of the reward, which gets into the whole situation of why if you do the same thing over and over, it stops being motivating because now that trigger doesn't work so well anymore. But so dopamine also has a lot to do with learning because as the dopamine is triggered, you kind of go, oh, I can do this. You do it. The dopamine starts to drop off, but you're like, okay, now I know this for next time. And then the system is developed well. What it does is it brings you back and it goes, okay, you did that. Now let's try this. And it sort of ups the game a little bit. So that's how good systems kind of keep you going and keep you motivated. That's the dopamine part of it. So the next one is oxytocin. And oxytocin sometimes is called the cuddle hormone. Yeah. It does have a lot to do with physical contact, mothers and babies with breastfeeding and things like that. But it's also triggered in a lot of other ways. So for example, just doing acts of kindness, you can trigger the oxytocin in multiple ways. And group activities, again, working on something physically with other people. So there's lots of ways to do that. And that's, again, linked to that social aspect of having fun. It's involving other people on some level quite often. The next one is your serotonin, which is a mood regulator. So it also, what's kind of interesting in terms of gamification, you might have seen a lot of apps you use or different systems use badges, things like that. You get some sort of virtual or physical token that represents some achievement or something. That's actually linked to serotonin because serotonin is linked to your memory of past events. And so when you see that badge, it sort of reinitializes the motivation piece a little bit. So it gives you that little bit of boost there. And then the endorphins, the runner high. I know that's how most people usually think about it. That one obviously is triggered by exercise, but it's triggered by other things, laughing, eating spicy foods, which not really connected to gamification, but there's other things that can trigger these things. And so that's kind of the interesting thing is you can start to build activities into your day that can kind of keep these neurotransmitters, happy, and keeps you happy in turn, because they're dancing around in your brain.
Well, and I think sort of what we're trying to unpack is that a lot of people go after exercise thinking, I need to build lean muscle, I need to lose weight. The piece that they don't necessarily think about is the firing of neurotransmitters and the good, happy hormones that dump as a result of that and what that can lead to. Yeah. And, a lot of people talk about, I'm just not motivated to exercise. And so talk a little bit about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation and how that plays into sort of the fun and the neurotransmitter piece.
Yeah, because really there's sort of these two major types. It's not one or the other. They can work together. But extrinsic is those external motivators. So you do it because someone told you to, or because you went to the doctor and they told you needed to exercise. Okay, that's not as motivating because now somebody else has told you to do it. Yeah. Money is a motivator, but even it has its limits. So anything that's coming from the outside, you can think of it like caffeine in a cup of coffee. It's good on the short term. It can be very good for getting somebody started, because it can sort of, it can nudge them. It can hit that sort of urgency button and can sort of get them started. So it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's not going to have long-term effects. It's going to wear off.
Right.
But the intrinsic motivation, on the other hand, that's when you're doing things because you truly want to be doing them, because you enjoy it. You would do it no matter what. You just want to be doing it. And in terms of exercise, I think what happens, that the hard part for some people is you can shift from an extrinsic motivator to an intrinsic motivator. So let's say somebody says, I want to start running.
Yeah.
They've never really been a runner, but they've decided they want to do it. Hopefully not just because somebody told them they should. So they get started. But at the beginning, it's still hard because it's new. They haven't established that habit, that routine yet. And so it's hard for them. Mm-hmm. But as they keep going, the mindset shifts. And that's a big part of gamification, is that it really is about mindset. It's the way you approach things. When you start looking at things through this sort of gamification lens, what happens is, well, my husband would say I gamify everything. That's what he would say. But what I would say is you start to see things differently. You start to see them with more curiosity. You start to see challenges as opportunities. And so failure does not become fatal. Failure becomes, okay, I tried it. That didn't work. I'll try it a different way. So with the extrinsic, if you continue with something, if you can create the environment, and really you can't motivate other people, but you can create an environment in which they motivate themselves, is what happens. And so then they shift over to this intrinsic motivation. And that's when the person starts to say, I am a runner. I'm someone who runs. It becomes part of their identity. And once it's become part of your identity, that's a very different, you're coming from a very different level of motivation at that point than when it was just, I'm going to go and try to run. So that's where we try to get people. And that's sometimes the hard gap. Sometimes the gap's bigger than others.
Yeah. And I think that you've done a really good job of talking about, okay, so all the different types of fun, and we're going to move into kind of talking about, well, how do we apply this actually to our workouts? You can start with one kind and then you can move in. And then as we're doing that, the extrinsic motivator that you might have started with will now transform into intrinsic. So talk a little bit about, how do we, this is all cerebral. How do we actually apply this to our workouts in general to kind of help us get more consistent?
Yeah. Well, I think first, a place that a lot of people start, and I actually put these in a little handout that I'm happy to share with everybody.
Great.
So actually, as people are commenting, if you put in the hashtag game on, we'll just go with that today. Game on, because that's shorter than gamification. Yeah. And easier to spell.
I love it.
But if you leave that, I'll know that you want to get a copy, and I will make sure, Dr. Heather will make sure you get a copy. but basically those are all in there. But some of the things that I listed, and there's tons of them, people often start with something external,
Yeah.
so like an app. There are tons of fitness apps out there. Many of them are gamified. And I unfortunately am not affiliated with any of these, but if they want to sponsor this show, I'm sure we would both love that.
For sure.
But the first one that I still use, this app came out, I want to say 2012, I think. It's been a while. It's not a new thing. Was Zombies Run.
Oh, yeah.
Now, zombies may not be your thing. I'm not a huge zombie fan either. But what it does really nicely is it wraps your running experience in a story. And story is a really strong motivator for people. And in the story, you're trying to save the world, basically, which, again, feeds those neurotransmitters and feeds that motivation that, like, oh, I got to save the world. This is important. It makes it important. And it may sound silly, but those type of things do work on us. They really do.
It is amazing how you can go, okay, you can gamify, like, I need to get this many more, past this many more cars, or this, exactly. Even on a small scale. And it's amazing how motivating it is.
Yeah. And I always tell people the best gamification system for you is going to be the one you create.
Yeah.
You're going to create no matter how good a product is out there, you're going to create a better one because you have ownership of it. Yeah. And you helped build it, and it means something to you. And so again, now we're starting to wrap the emotional pieces in with these other pieces, because it really all is in our head. The physical part obviously is important, but we don't go anywhere if the brain doesn't take us there. So you just
So Zombies Run is a great one. Do you have one or two other ones that we can just leave with?
Yeah, I think a lot of people. I think for a lot of people, a really good choice is any sort of wearable device. So I've got my tracker on. Yeah. And the really nice thing about some of these is they're motivation agnostic. Everybody who gets one can be doing it for a different reason. When my husband got it originally, he was the first one that got it, and he did it because he wanted to lose weight, and that's fine. So he needed that. I got it more because I was curious. I wanted to see how it worked. It applied to things that I talk about, so I was like, I should kind of know about this. I should try it out, see how it works, because I already walk 5 miles a day. So like tracking my steps didn't really. There wasn't any additional motivation for me. But then my mother, who is 87 and a half years old and uses a walker, she said, can I get one? And we're like, sure. Because she knows she's had almost every bone in her body broken. She knows she has to move. And so it's easy when you just say, oh, tomorrow I'll take a walk. But when you can see it, and that's the real power of a lot of the gamification stuff, is make the progress visible. Anytime you can see it, that is like immensely powerful. So any of these applications that track things are also really great. Habit Bull, Loop Habits, anything where you can see your progress is huge. It's hugely motivating to people. They want to see that they're progressing. So One
of my favorites is Strava, of course, because they have a great leaderboard concept. And I've told this story before, but I just made a mission for myself to get to the top of one of the leaderboards. And it's hilarious. You get this little text saying you're the queen of the mountain, and that lit me up for the day. Like I was so excited about it. And so it is funny. We truly are simple creatures in the end. And I love that it's something so simple, properly targeted, can make the changes you're looking for in your life. So.
And actually, you mentioned Strava. One of the articles I put in the handout is about this man in San Francisco who decided to make his runs more creative, and he maps out pictures. So all of the tracks of his runs are pictures, and some of them are like freakishly complicated. He did like the Starship Enterprise, and he did Frida Kahlo. And
gosh.
So that links in there. So you can see his maps.
the path that he runs
Yes,
from a bird's eye view looks like something.
exactly. Looks
Oh,
like
Lord.
something. So he plans them out to look like. I mean, and again, that's combining those different types of motivations. That's a creative piece combined with the achievement piece, combined with, so yeah, it's like that's where the real, for me, that's where a lot of the fun is where you can start to mix and match, and you can see how you can put these different pieces together in unique ways. Yeah.
I love that. I want to read this because this was something I took from our notes. If we apply gamification to our wellness goals and we focus on the fun aspect, we can unleash key neurotransmitters that want to make us do more of whatever we were doing. It tells our brain goes, yes, more of that. By doing that, we amplify intrinsic motivation. And
we'll just make up new words.
Exactly. So I want to reiterate, first of all, if you guys are watching, put #GameOn down below in the comments. And even if you're watching a replay, we are going to be checking back and doing this. If you're watching from YouTube, the link is in the notes below, so you can check that. And I want to let everybody know Valary has been extremely generous in offering a strategy call for you guys. If you are still not sure how to gamify your workout, you want to follow up with one of the experts. Valary is willing to get on the phone with you and help you strategize how to gamify your workout or any other wellness goal that you have. Okay. So we'll put that information down below as well. Valary, if they want a strategy call, what is the best way to reach you?
Honestly, whatever platform they're watching this on, I am Valary with a Y. So that's VALARY WITHAWHY. And we'll put that, I will put that in the notes and everything. But yeah, you can reach out to me with direct messages, email me, whatever is easiest for you, and we'll get you a link for a call. So you can
that's awesome. And guys, if you've been watching, I'm sure by this point you are completely convinced about gamifying not only your workout, but other wellness aspects that you have. Valary is great about talking about gamifying everything. I mean, there's just ways that you can do to motivate yourself in such naturally congruent brain chemistry ways. And I really appreciate that. Valary, is there anything that I've overlooked as far as questions that I was going to be asking you today?
No, I think amazingly we got through it. I would just say regarding that, I know some people get a little nervous. It sounds like, oh, we're trying to make you do things, or we're trying to mess with your brain or something. And it's really not. Those of us who have been doing this for a while, most of us are, we're kind of it's like the doctor's oath, we're doing no harm here. What we want to do is you have goals that you want to achieve. And through gamification, we just know that there's pathways to make that process a little easier for you and increase your chances of success. And so that's why I do it, and most of the people that I know in the industry are doing it. So
I'm a big fan. I took a lot of chemistry in college, and I remember discovering what a catalyst is. When you add to a chemical reaction, it makes it go way faster and get to that end result way quicker. And that's what gamification is let's create a little ease in how much work this all is for us to stay healthy and be well. And in applying gamification, all you're doing is just injecting a catalyst into the process.
I'm totally stealing that, by the way.
You can totally steal that. And so guys, thank you so much for watching. We are at a funny time today because I'm in Bend, Oregon, and we are going skiing today. And so Valary was kind enough to join me at a funny time today. Thank you, Valary. But again, as always, The Junk Show lives forever on the YouTube channel, Well Fit and Fed. Go over there and subscribe so you don't miss a show. And do share this with your friends and family, and reach out to Valary for a strategy call, and put #GameOn in the comments so that you can receive her amazing document that will help you learn a little bit more about gamification of wellness goals. Valary, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. It was great. It was great.
Good luck at your presentation and the conference this weekend. And we will be checking back with you again, I am sure, because this is such a great topic. So thank you so much. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.